Hello, this is Lee Burton with Functional Movement Systems. I want to take just a few minutes today to give you a quick overview of the philosophy and the background of what Functional Movement Systems is. Too often, people think Functional Movement Systems is simply the functional movement screen or the 7-test overview of how people move. Well, it needs to be made clear that it's much more than that. Functional Movement Systems is more about a philosophy of identifying movement dysfunction. We use multiple tests depending on what we're looking for in the situation we're in to help us achieve that and find out that information. It's really about trying to make better decisions as sports medicine and exercise professionals. We use the functional movement screen as an entry point to determine where we need to go then based off the information we receive. If the person has pain, we'll use the selective functional movement assessment as a more detailed way to identify what is causing the movement dysfunction. If the person doesn't have any significant problems or pain in the functional movement screen, we'll use the Y balance test as an option to further put a person in a position and challenge them a little bit higher level. So we'll use these movement-based tests to give us more information on how a person is moving. Now, the problem has always been that identifying problems with movements has been very inconsistent. So as an example, exercise professionals, strength and conditioning professionals may have a tendency to look more into performance. What is their power? What does their strength look like? Whereas sports medicine professionals have a tendency to look at different parts of the body. Looking at certain joints. How much range of motion do we have? What is the flexibility in that muscle? And really, we need to take a little bit different approach and look at patterns. The brain understands patterns. It doesn't just think about how much strength we have in the bicep or how much range of motion we have in a joint. It's how all these things are combined to create efficient and effective movement. We look at squatting, we look at single leg stance. We need to think about how all the joints and the muscles work together to create efficient movement. And that's the fundamental philosophy of the FMS, is trying to create a more consistent way for exercise professionals to communicate better, create a little bit better entry point for better decisions that we make. Now, when we started this back in 1997, it was really something very simple. Gray Cook, who's the founder of Functional Movement Systems, really had a unique way of looking at how the body moved in the clinical setting. He looked at a person coming in with, no matter what the problem was, whether it was back pain or ankle pain, if the person was functional, meaning in an outpatient clinic, they were able to walk in and do certain things, he would have them do very basic movement patterns, touch their toes, bend backwards, rotate. And the idea was to take this fundamental philosophy of looking at movement and see if we could create a screen that would help bridge the gap between pre-participation examinations and performance testing. And myself, working at a high school setting, this was the prime area that we felt was needed. Because in most high school athletics, in most scenarios, whether you're high-level sports or whether you're simply trying to increase your activity level working with a personal trainer, most people do a good history. Then they go right into looking at performance-based tests. They skip that movement area, which is very much needed. And even in 1997, we viewed this as something that we had to look into a little closer. So you had the pre-participation exams at a high school level as the example, collecting basic medical history data, collecting some of the blood pressure, some of the pulse, and doing some basic things, and then going right into performance-based tests such as vertical jumping, bench pressing, how much weight can you squat, without taking the opportunity to just gauge fundamental movements. And that was the area that we really tried to tap into. Can a high school athlete squat? Can they lunge? Can they do a push-up? Do they have the requisite range of motion in their upper body and lower body to simply do a bench press or do some of the basic tasks that are required, whether it's in the weight room or on the field? So we wanted to create something that was very simple, very easy to use, which is the definition of a screen. Be able to do it on large groups of people, thereby filtering certain things out. And that was our goal in 1997. And it's still our goal right now. But we create a better system, so we now look at things a little bit differently.